I want to talk to you about a fact that ends up being very convenient for a lot of triangles. You'll see on this triangle we have two angles that are congruent to each other over here on the bases. If we see a situation like that where two angles are congruent to each other in a single triangle, then we can say that the sides that are opposite those two angles are congruent to each other as well. So we see this is opposite that side, and this is opposite that side. So these two sides are congruent to each other. We can see now that we have an isosceles triangle where we've got two angles are congruent, these two sides are congruent. I don't know about this third one, but if it was congruent, then this third side would also be congruent, and it would give us an equilateral triangle. So we're going to use that fact in some of our triangles today. We have a diagram right here that has lots and lots of different triangles kind of all built into the same thing. So we're given some pieces of information and we have to see what can we tell or conclude from that piece of information. So let's mark down what we know. AB is congruent to EB. AB is this line segment right here, and EB is this line segment right here. Now, those two are part of this triangle here on the left. That's going to be the most challenging thing about this, is we have to identify which triangle we're talking about with those pieces of information. So we know that these two sides are congruent to each other. And I realize that it doesn't look like that in the picture, but with the information, we're going to trust that. So the angles opposite those two are also going to be congruent to each other. That means that this angle and this angle are congruent. So let's write that down. This angle is EAB. So EAB. Angle EAB is congruent to, and this angle right here is AEB. Angle AEB. So we know from this information that that is true because these two angles, or these two sides are congruent, so the angles opposite them will also be congruent. Let's take a look at our second piece of information. If angle ECB is congruent to angle EBC, so let's figure out where they are. ECB is this angle right here. EBC is that angle right there. So these two angles, we can see we're talking about this middle triangle right here. So let's highlight that. If those two angles are congruent to each other, then the sides opposite them must also be congruent. So that would be this side right there, and this side right here are congruent to each other. So we can see that EC is congruent to EB. Thank you.